Hi everyone, welcome to WW Designs. My name is Nikki and today we need to do part 2 of this gorgeous little piece of ephemera I made for my swap partner. If you haven't already watched this video, I suggest you go back and do so. It explains why I'm making all this, etc. Or the other thing you can do is head to my playlist, Creative Collab Journal, where there is now 2 and a bit years worth of swap ephemera that I have made for my swap partners. And if you're ever after something different to make, you will find a ton of videos to give you ideas. So this is 2 pages of a journal that we are making for our swap partner. When our partners receive their goodies and I receive mine, we'll be punching our own holes in here and putting it together with rings. If you're not interested in the ring arrangement, there is no reason why you can't follow how we make this fabulous decoration and put it onto a normal journal page. So in saying that, don't get too hung up on sizes. I only have a small piece of real estate to work on for these pieces, so you might have a bigger, like a big A5 or whatever. I will give you guidelines as to what I've done, but don't stress about it. If you want to copy it exactly, just take some screenshots so you'll have all your sizing. So that was the first piece, and my lady requested gardens and garden animals without snakes. So I've been very good, and tempted I was to add a snake. No, I have not. So I need a base because of the style of journal page I'm making. This is 8 inches by 7.5 inches. And this becomes 2 pages when it's finished. This is glued together. And of course, holes will go in it, but we're sending ours without the holes because there are different size hole punches, and it would be better if each punched their own so it's exactly how they would like it. Now, because this is the actual journal pages, I've used cardstock. I have printed this out. This is a printable I bought off Angela Kerr. It's her spring pack or something, and I decided that seeing my last piece, I used such a vibrant background, I've gone the complete opposite for this one, and we're doing something a little bit lighter, but I will incorporate some of the same pieces that I used in the first one, so they belong together, but not exactly. I have already cut everything up, and I have inked all my edges. I am using Distress Ink brushed corduroy with my little dauber, but honestly, to save time, because otherwise watching me cut all this will drive you nuts, and that's not what we want. So we're going to start with this side, and I have to keep in mind that I need to try and keep a border of about 1/2 inch clear here for the hole punching, so I sort of work towards the center line for this. And the first thing we need is 3 little envelopes. Now, this inspiration comes from Pink Monarch Prints. They actually produced a kit that you could buy to make this entire journal. But of course, we're not doing that. We're hand making every bit because each one of us had a different theme request. All of mine are going to be coffee related, but in this case, my lady wants gardens. So I did make a little template. Please feel free to take a screenshot of this. You basically need a scrap that's 5 inches in length. Oh, I didn't measure that. So we've got 2 3/4 plus 1/2 inch, so 3 3/4 across roughly. And then we need to round the corners. Now, you want a really easy way to do this, especially on pieces of paper that aren't dead square. Corner punches may not work. Grab the tiniest coin you can find. I usually use an Australian 5-cent piece, but after being in Europe, I had this very cute little 1-cent euro. I'm now keeping that. And what you do is you simply, once you've cut out your main bits, pop this down measure, get this to fit right up to both edges, and then just draw around it. And you will end up with nice rounded corners. Easy peasy. And I'm going to keep this little template that I've made because I may very well use this to make some small envelopes yet again down the track. So that's why I did it as a template. And also then, instead of having to measure out 3 different ones for the 3 envelopes, I just cut out around this. So that was very handy. So we now have 3 little envelopes. But before we do anything, we're going to add some pockets. Would you believe it? They're going to be tiny little pockets, but tiny little pockets it is. These measure 2 inches across by 1 1/4 inches down. And you'll notice I've written a lot of my measurements on the back. No one's going to see that because it's being glued down. So we have made pockets that will fit into this bottom flap, or if you prefer, you can put them there. But the initial plan was to put them here, so I'm going to do just that. And I'm just going to grab my glue, and we're going to quickly glue all these down. And what I'll do is I'll glue all 3 down, and then we'll be back. You don't need to watch me do the same thing 3 times. So 3 little pockets, they're all down. And then I just had to go through my stash and find some little tiny pieces of ephemera. And I found this. It looks like a little mini journaling card. That can go in my first pocket. But I've got to nudge it in so that it gets below the fold line. This is another cute little mini journaling card. I have no idea where these bits came from. They've been in my stash for a while. So we're going to pop that one in there. And then I found this cute little floral piece of ephemera, and that can go in that one. So that's now done. We need to attach them to our first page. So what I'm doing is I'm going to fold them in the way I want them to go. And we are not going to fold down, sorry, rephrase that. I don't want to glue down this side. I'll show you why shortly. So I'm going to grab on the side, I do not want glue, and then we're going to run some glue along here. We're going to flip it over, and we're going to glue it down. And I want some space left here. You'll see why shortly, but I want to keep it away from that edge. So that's roughly where it's going. And I might just flip this around to help me get this relatively central. Oh, I can see one of those is a bit out of whack. Anyway, that doesn't matter. We're going to find a little happy sweet spot in the middle there, and that will do nicely. Now, of course, we can't have our little envelopes flipping open like this. So, seeing these are envelopes and it sort of relates to mail, this is how we are going to close our little envelopes. I'm going to start with this one. So, what we're doing is I've made little tabs, okay? And we're going to glue these on here. So, get it up the right way. Put your thumb over the bit you don't want glue, and then just on the lower half, add some glue so that when you go like this and you glue it down, because you've kept glue sort of below the halfway mark, and you pop that down, you've made yourself a little tab. How cool is that? I think these are very cute. So again, now, which is the right way up? Yes, we have words on there that need to be the right way, or it's going to look a bit strange. And we're keeping the glue below the halfway mark so that we can safely, pop this down without obviously putting glue on here, otherwise you won't be able to open your little envelope. So again, we've made ourselves a little tuck spot. Oh, hang on, I might have got that. Oh no, that's actually print, that's white on here. I thought that was a bit of glue, but it actually isn't. There we go. And then we're doing the same thing for the last one. Again, flipping it round, putting glue down just in the bottom bit. And gluing that down. And so now our little envelopes stay shut. And of course, we then have our little open place, and we're going to make some little tags to pop in there. So I just started off with some of this scrap, and I cut out 3 little pieces into the edges, and then I just went through my stash and found these little seed pod leaf arrangements. They were fussy cut off a piece of scrapbook paper. I can't even tell you what brand it was. I just found some little leftover bits, and I thought that just sort of looked a bit interesting in relation to garden, without being all frilly and flowery, just for something a little bit different. And then I had the little leaf, because I only had 2 of these sort of seed poddy arrangements, but just for a little bit of deco on here. You don't even have to add this bit, but I did. And then when I fussy cut these out, I did ink around the edges. If you accidentally leave little white bits and you just don't want to get too pedantic about it, a little bit of inking around the edges sort of hides those little white bits. Now, I had some cardstock whale tail tabs that I had been sent by someone in a swap, and I decided to use these, and I found a stamp set that had quite a few of these cute little butterflies, and so I just stamped a different one on each of them. And all we're going to do is flip this over. We're going to add some glue and attach these to the top so that we can pull them out. Now just try and sort of get that central. That's one. And now we have 3 little journaling cards. So the next thing we're going to do is the other side. It's the same thing in that it's another trio, but these are long pockets that run down the length. So I have made the 3 pockets, and we've got 6.5 by 3, 6.5 by 2 1/4, and 6.5 by 1.5, actually just shy of 1.5. And all we have to do is glue these down, and you'll see that I have used my circle punch to create little spots. You don't have to do that, but you'll see in a minute why I've done it and how we're going to actually make journaling cards to go inside here. So we need to glue these down. And when it comes to placement, I remember I have to leave a gap. So I'm going to really nudge towards the edge of my 1/2 inch and pop that down. Then we're going to do exactly the same with the next one. Adding that in there. Making sure it sits inside. And finally, this last little one. And you'll see with this how I've matched up some of the cardstocks and things that I've used. So there's a bit of uniformity between these two pages. Voila. Very simple. So we now have a trio of pockets, and I have one annoying little scrap there I'm going to have to cut off. That's driving me crazy. Then we need something to put in them. I might just put this aside for a minute. So we've cut out 3 journaling cards, but it had a very bright background. So what I did, I glued it down onto some craft wrapping paper that I have, and I'm just going to have to rub all this off, but I'll do that later. I wrote on it very lightly, so that way at least you can use this as a journaling card. And oh, now what was that size? That was 5.5 by 2. The bigger one is 5.5 by 2.5, and the baby one is 5.5 by 1.5. So these are our journaling cards, and I'm going to add a little bit of deco to them. You can skip this bit too if you think it's enough, but I want to do it. I cut out this cute little birdhouse and a little birdie because I wanted to add a few things that weren't butterflies, just to, you know, get a little bit more garden variety going. So also did this bird, and same thing with the fussy cutting. I left some white around the edges, especially because these little leggies would have been very delicate and possibly torn. And then when you put a little bit of distress ink around the edges, it softens that white and it just helps to make it a little bit secure. So I'm going to pop Birdie sitting up on top of his birdhouse. Couldn't resist putting a butterfly on. This is actually more of a moth, but it goes with my theme. And it just fitted perfectly on that one. And then I had to find something very little, but I did manage to find this little flower to fussy cut. It also was just going to fit nicely, and I fussy cut a little bee. This was on a sheet I got in a card making magazine at an op shop. It was a whole sheet of these little bees, and I'm just slowly working my way through them. I love them. And same thing, just because these little legs are so tiny, if you leave a bit of the white around it and just ink the edges, it's all good, and it just makes it safer to put them down. So now that's our journaling cards done. The one thing left, let me just pick these up and move them out of the way. I'm going to grab this. So what I've done is I have made 3 circle punches to put on the side of the journaling cards to help lift them out. So again, I've done this on cardstock so that it's not too flimsy and will do the job. I've stamped 1, 2, 3 on them. Again, you don't have to do that if you don't want to, but I have. And then what we're going to do, we need to grab our journaling cards, and we'll start in order of size. So this is the biggest one, so that's going in the biggest pocket, and we need to roughly line up where we want the circle to go so that it shows and sits in the divot. So we're doing the same sort of thing again. I want my number 1 the right way round, and we're going to put glue just down in the bottom part. So just repeating the same sort of process, and I'm going to just see if I can just tuck that in gently on the edge there. And you can see how it will be on display once it's inside the pocket. So that's the biggest one done. Then we go to the next one, and we sort of roughly, you know, line it up. Again, don't have to measure these things, just eyeball it. Same thing, make sure the 2's the right way up. Apply some glue down in the bottom part. And again, you see, I think in the original thing she made like little, they look like mini journaling cards, sort of top things. And I went, no, I'm going to add some uniformity and make them round. I just liked that idea better. So same thing, you want it to sit in roughly in there. And lucky last, we've got to do the same thing with the bottom one. Line it up approximately, because remember when you put it in, you can sort of slip and slide it around a little bit to make it fit, because this journaling card is nowhere near as long. So you can make it fit beautifully, but you want it roughly in the right place. And lucky last one, again, aiming to have it sitting in the gap. Voila. So now let's add all our bits in. All the pockets are full. 3 little journaling cards tucked in behind the envelopes, and then the journaling cards tucked into these pockets. And don't they look cool with the little circles filled into the gaps? And there's just one more thing I wanted to do though, which I forgot to do before, and that was to add this little cutie. Now, I got given this in a swap, and it's a really cute wax seal with a flower and a butterfly, and I've decided I want it to go right there. Just a little bit of extra decoration. Don't need to do this, but seeing I got given this and I just think it matches the theme perfectly, let's use it. And this person even put it on a little wax seal sticky pad, but I won't trust that glue to hold this down, so of course I've added some myself. And we're just going to pop that right on the edge there. Just a little bit of extra deco. So now the only thing I have to do is to glue these 2 pages together, but I'll do that after I've taken a photo to put on my video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments box below. If you could give this video a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. And until next time, thank you for watching, and stay safe and stay healthy. Bye for now.